Making music is fundamental to human culture. Dancing, drawing, singing, and playing musical instruments are activities from time immemorial. They are ordinary, yet quite extraordinary things to do. From our earliest ancestors to the present day, we've always done them, irrespective of time, place, culture. Hi, I'm David Bell for kiwiconnexion.nz, and this week I'm talking about the music of the spheres, revelations of unsounded notes, and the timbres of silence. The Bible has some interesting things to say about music. In Genesis 4:21, Jubal is identified as the father of all those who play upon the lyre. But century upon century later, by the time of Amos, there's a stern warning against the rich people of Judah who invent new instruments of music. Judah was wasting money on luxuries while their relatives in the northern kingdom of Israel faced conquest by war, where there was cruelty and starvation. In general, though, the Hebrew people enjoyed making music. They played the horn, cymbals, viol, trumpets, drums, and the forerunner of what we call the zither. And of course there was singing, from pastoral shepherd songs to fiery war songs like the sword song of Ezekiel 21:8-17. This carried into the New Testament times. One of the most moving verses in the Gospels is at Mark 14:26. And when they'd sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Even unto betrayal and death, the power of music in the form of a hymn animates the human soul. Just briefly going back to the time of Amos, very approximately around 750 BC, not only were new instruments being invented, but a new concept of music was starting to stir. The invention of a written grammatical language, that's the early form of Hebrew, had stimulated all kinds of other ideas, including ways to convey musical notes. I personally think what happened next was a miracle of human imagination. It was the legendary Pythagoras in the 6th century BCE who linked up astronomy and mathematics to music. In his universe, absolutely everything was connected by geometry, by numbers, and by ratios. Imagine a string vibrating as on a big double bass. It would sound a deep note. Now, holding the string down exactly halfway along and gently plucking would generate a new note, and the new note is exactly an octave above, a special sound, a unique sound, but intimately connected to the first. They're a unity. Pythagoras discovered all sorts of relations between sounds and where you divide the string. All the notes of the scale were held together by numbers. Now, while this is true, it isn't the miracle that I was thinking about. Instead, this idea must have come in a flash to Pythagoras. It might have been a revelation from God. Pythagoras said that each of the planets in the night sky must be playing a very special music. He associated this music with the number ratios, their specific individual geometries, as the planets rolled around their orbits. Here was a music that could not be heard, could not be comprehended by human ears. It was the music of God and for God. Pythagoras gave it a special name, which has survived 2,600 years. Pythagoras called this unsounded, unheard music the music of the spheres. Yes, I think this was a revelation. I think of various composers and musicians who seem to prove it so in other ways. There was Beethoven, for example, His hearing had deteriorated so much by the completion of the famous Fifth Symphony, it was almost impossible for him to hear what the music sounded like. By the Ninth Symphony, he lived in a silent world, and yet ringing clear and true and strong are the irrepressible voices singing out the revelation of the Ode to Joy. The sublime mastery of Beethoven's last quartets are equally a testimony to a music that has come from beyond this world and its world of hearing. Beethoven called it the dance of God in his head, but every note was worked and reworked until it conveyed absolute inevitability. Mozart often felt that he had never composed, but rather that the music was simply given to him in an instant. Haydn, whose musical genius was widely appreciated in the 18th century, was asked how he had achieved such a prodigious output. He said, "Well, you see, I get up early, and as soon as I've dressed, I go down on my knees, and I pray God and the Blessed Virgin that I may have another successful day." The contemporary English composer John Taverner's music is often the result of extraordinary visions and meditations on Mary, Mother of God. And the great Estonian composer Arvo Pärt likewise uses chants from ancient Greek Orthodox liturgies to create intense soundscapes, minimalist soundscapes. Igor Stravinsky also firmly believed in the power of prayer. He saw himself as a channel for God to work through. It's powerful, the Rite of Spring is generally regarded as marking the transition from 19th to 20th century music. He wrote, quote, "I had only my ear to help me. I heard and I wrote what I heard. I am the vessel through which the sacred has passed." Unquote. Of course, many more composers could be added to this list of believers, but that's not the point. Rather, they're all of a mind to say that the music was not of their own making. It was gifted to them. But in that instant of gifting, if we could but be onlookers, we would hear nothing. We would hear nothing but the silence of the music of the spheres. Yet that silence would convey everything. In an instant, everything came that the composers needed. It's like Anton Bruckner's pronouncement on his 8th Symphony. The last 16 bars are an astonishing culmination, insight that admits no other explanation than what he himself wrote. God revealed it to me, and that's where the matter must lie. No other declarations possible in the silence after the music dies away. The timbres of the silence are as definitive as the music itself. Just so with our own faith. Join me again next week. Do like, share and subscribe, and thanks for watching.